Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Today I have a Macstrat as my guest. He is a graphic designer and teacher. And what is the most important? He has collected a collection of playing cards, which consists 1,500 decks. It's quite huge collection. Hi, Macstrat. It's pleasure to meet you in person. First, I want to say thank you for your cool review of playing cards that you made for Tricks and Miami Gorillas. You said it's amazing cards. Also, thank you for that. I wanted to talk today about playing cards. What cards do you think the most in demand? And we will talk about my collection that I decided to make. Also, because you made good advice for me. I mean, this collection of 51 city names. The very first question: how did you come to playing cards and started collecting them? As you said before, it's 1,500 decks, which is quite huge.
Yeah, so I started collecting cards as a way to stop smoking. Like just something to do with my hands. Um Ironically enough, I didn't quit smoking, but I wound up losing my job because I was flicking playing cards up in the air. Employers tend to frown upon that. Uh, but the playing cards wound up kind of staying with me. And part of my background with design is I grew up in museums. My father he worked in museums as an exhibit designer. So I've always been around art and exhibits and things like that. And playing cards kind of fit perfectly into that niche where I really could just have, a mini art museum in my pocket. So everything kind of snowballed and I wound up eventually collecting playing cards for the artwork.
Okay, nice answer. So you said me before that you have like a virtual collection of 1,500 decks. Where did you keep your physical decks? Because I know that 1,500 decks is quite a huge amount.
So I use the I don't think I have any around me right now. Um there is I'm blanking on the name of the company, but there's a company that makes boxes. And these boxes they're designed for basketball cards, sports trading cards. And I found that each one of those decks with the carrot case will perfectly hold 18 decks of cards. And you wind up having 12 of those boxes will fit in a case. So that's actually what I wind up having, and I think if I can shift that a little bit, if you look right behind that light there, you can actually see one of the cases.
Yeah, I see them. Yeah.
So that's how I wind up storing the cards.
Okay, tell me, do you spend time on Kickstarter looking for new decks?
More time than is probably healthy.
Cool. What are your sorry? What are your favorite playing cards? More like classic or something unusual, color designs and so on.
I tend to I definitely tend to gravitate more toward the fully custom decks just because I do collect for the art. I am looking for those unique decks, those variations on a theme. Um Usually the more unusual the deck, the more I tend to gravitate toward it. And a lot of the standard ones, they wind up being like a dime a dozen. Like every I would say every card manufacturer has their own standard deck. And it's okay, how do we take that idea that everybody knows and we bring it up to the next level? And that's one of the things that I look for in a deck is are they actually attempting to take that idea to the next level?
Okay, when you pick a deck of cards, what are the three things you pay attention to first? The very first.
The first thing I pay attention to is the artwork itself. I do collect for the artwork, so that does wind up taking priority. There really isn't a style of artwork that I look for, but looking at some of the promo pictures and things like that, is their artwork, is the theme cohesive? I do look for custom pips. Those those are big for me, um, because they start to show where that design challenge really comes in, where you have these icons that everyone knows. How do we make these icons unique? And the final thing that I look for is printer. Who's printing them? Um, there have been a large number of decks coming out recently that are um, being printed with co- uh, printing companies that nobody really knows, and I tend to avoid them entirely. If I'm spending 20-25 dollars on a deck of cards, I want to make sure that the what I'm getting is quality.
But which companies you prefer? Okay, USPC company. I guess Cartamundi. Is there some other companies you prefer?
Legends, I will almost always back. I've never received a bad deck of Legends cards. USPC is they're definitely high up on my list. Given their quality control issues, I do tend to kind of compare that with, okay, this company is trying to print with USPC and their Kickstarter goal is $5,000. Something weird is going on there. So I do tend to look at that. Kingstar, which has started popping up everywhere, which is phenomenal. Their decks are great. Um, Anything with the Cartamundi name and instead of the USPCC name, but with the actual Cartamundi, I will also almost no questions asked attempt to back it.
What about Chinese companies? Because I have an experience with one Chinese company, and we make the Cybernet deck. I hope you saw it in my
Yes.
social medias. Uh, I definitely need to send it one deck to you as well, maybe a few decks. I will do it tomorrow. And the quality is really close to Bicycle, this Las Vegas deck I did.
Mhm.
And what do you think? Any chance if I will write in Kickstarter that this next deck will be printed in China, that it will raise funds, or it will be uh, tricky, and maybe a lot of bakers just skip this campaign.
There it it winds up being one of those very unusual things, and it definitely varies from country to country in terms of how China is viewed. Without getting overly political, here in the United States, um, some people tend to not mind it at all because so much of what we import comes from China. Other people go, oh well, these need to be printed in the US of A. It For me personally, I lived in China for 3 years, so I I know that the quality that comes out of China can be very very poor, or some of the best I've ever had, if not the best. So there's such a wide spectrum in there. For me, I don't really pay that much attention to it. But I can see that a lot of people kind of taking a step back if it says made in China. Now, going back to what I had said with a previous question that you had asked, you do have companies like Legends and um, and Kingstar that are coming out of China, Taiwan, etc. And their quality is rivaled with the cards that we have here in the United States. So I think a lot more of that comes down to brand recognition. If you see Kingstar, if you see Legends, you know you're going to get a good quality card regardless of where it's actually printed at.
Yeah, the quality is the first question, but the price is the second question. It's most important because let's say Cartamundi may raised their price so much, and for me it was just impossible to produce this Cybernew deck. That's the reason why I found a really good company in China. Okay. One of my latest card decks is Miami Gorillas. You remember it.
Yep.
What do you have to say about it? Because, we absolutely not raised money there. Remember Tricks deck? You sent me a really good review with mistakes and
Mhm.
changes, and there is nothing nothing to change, and we raised 10 times less.
Yeah, it's one of the one of the places I do teaching is for uh, public relations and things like that. And one of the things I tell people is you're never going to win over the crowd every single time. We have had projects that have, they've dumped, you know, 2-3 million dollars into a project and it fizzles on day one. Like there's no going forward. It happens. The same thing is true in the art world. It's true in any form of creative endeavor. And that is you have to keep going forward. Don't stop, keep going forward. And you might go through something 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 times before you actually get to the point where people go, "Oh, wait. Wow. That's really good." And it's sticking 100% sticking with that, especially with Kickstarter, is knowing what type of demographic you're looking for. Are you looking for a millennial demographic? Do you want older card players to pick up these cards? Are you trying to specifically focus these on people that collect for the art or people that collect for, the fact that it might be a bicycle themed deck? Who are you trying to target? And then looking at that and reaching out beyond, a little bit beyond that. With something like the Miami Gorillas, looking at this and going, okay, you have a lot of people in Florida that are proud of living and working in Miami. So, how can we actually use this deck in order to not just promote ourselves, yourself, your art, the deck itself, but what they want? How can I give people that connection to this deck?
Okay, really good answer. Um, do you think the custom playing cards market is a big or it's a really narrow niche?
Oh, that's tough. Again, it really depends on demographic. When you start looking at more cardistry oriented decks with patterns and things like that, you tend to have a much larger market. And that goes back to the demographics. You're looking at people that don't just do cardistry, but also do magic tricks. They might keep a deck on them. Those decks are generally they're printed in bulk, so they can pick them up very, very cheap. When you look at the more art-oriented decks or toward the collector's market, it does tend to be a lot smaller because you're looking at limited edition decks. You're looking at maybe not necessarily the same type of media exposure that you would get from a standard deck that they could use, for example, in a movie. The Catch Me If You Can deck from Theory 11. I'm blanking on it. I want to say it's the Monarchs, but don't quote me on that. The But that deck of cards, you know, I know a lot of people that got into collecting playing cards from that movie when they saw that, oh wow, that's a unique deck of cards. But that might not necessarily be the same type of cards that people are going to look at if they're going, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that type of art with a playing card.
Okay, cool. Which cards do you think looks better with white frames or without it? We talked with different cardists, and they said that it depends on you're making fan tricks, or
Mm.
you are make some magic? What do you think?
My again, it goes back to that cohesive design, like looking at everything about your deck and then going, okay, let's try this with this, let's try this without this. Generally, I tend to prefer the bordered cards simply because when you look at them from an artwork perspective, that white border or black border or whatever border you want to put it in, it frames that artwork nicely. So you're not looking beyond the side of the cards. You're focusing your eyes, you're focusing everything directly onto
Okay.
exactly where you want it to focus.
Uh, Still, but if we have white border like this card,
Mhm.
by the way, I will have one more question about specifically this deck. We can't make a nice fan, so it's impossible to make a good fan with this white board.
Well, and that's where as an artist, you start looking at it and going, okay, less is more. For example, even with the white border cards, I have a deck here somewhere.
Yeah, because if I will take, let's say, this Las Vegas deck, uh,
Yeah.
we have a really fancy fan. Yeah, and
Mhm.
if I will make the same with that one, nothing good will happen.
There we go. Here's a knock,
Yep.
right? We have the white border. Now, even with this white border, if you just, take a few arrows, shoot them off the side, when you go to
Uh,
fan that, you're going to create that, but you're still allowing that border
I
to
got your
to
point.
be prevalent.
I got your point. It's really good.
Mhm.
Um, Good answer, really. For me, as a custom playing car creator, it's really good advice. By the way, um, I'm working on this 51 city names collection, and do you have some advices for me? At the moment, I have 3 decks in this collection. It's Las Vegas, Miami, and next is a Phoenix. It's in my Instagram. There's a black and yellow deck. Maybe you could make some review as well for that deck. But in general, what advices you could give me if I planning to build this quite big collection?
There was a company here called, I think it was Bradbury Mountain, something like that, and they did a series of bicycle cards, around about cities all around Pennsylvania. And one of the things that they did with that deck was they personalized that deck to the area. And because of that, they were able to kind of expand where that deck was sold, the exposure to that deck. So if you're looking at a deck like Phoenix, for example, right? What as someone that has never been to Phoenix, is there something about this deck that can be used to make me want to visit Phoenix? Or as someone that lives in Phoenix, what is something that I'm proud of to show the world? And it's right in that middle ground, I think is where you're going to find kind of that sweet spot and be able to reach a much larger audience.
So looks like you're talking about like the souvenir for tourists, or
Not necessarily. It's it's about finding that middle ground. While it might be a deck that you can sell at a museum, it's also a deck that, an artist might be looking to pick up or that has unique artwork on it. And people go, "Oh, wow." For example, maybe hiring an artist from Phoenix to do the art for the Phoenix deck. Give them that connection to it in order to make people feel that connection.
okay, cool. Let's come back to this deck.
Mhm.
I mentioned that quite a lot of magicians and cardists using this specifically this deck. Can you tell me why? What is the reason they using this one?
They're cheap.
That's the only question. That's the only answer. It's cheap. That's so
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah, I mean, it's if my personal preference is for tally hose. I can pick up a brick of tally hose online for about $36. If you know a brick of bicycles, I can pick up at Costco for anywhere between $15 and $20. And as soon as we start getting past that, you start looking at, especially on Kickstarter, a brick's running $100, $120. So if as as a magician, as someone that handles their cards a lot, you know, I'm going to go through decks. I'm going to burn decks. I'm going to destroy cards. And being able to pick up a deck that is A, inexpensive for me, B, that everybody knows. Oh, sorry about that. That everybody knows. Like you can hold a rider back up to anyone in the world, and they'll be able to go, I know that playing card. So
okay.
yeah. So it's brand recognition and it's price.
Okay, that looks like the price is more important. Okay, and now Blitz Array. I will ask you 5 questions, and you need to quickly answer them. So, which cards is better, black background or white background?
Visually, I prefer black. For scanning, I prefer white.
Okay, cool. Which faces are better, classic or unique drawn for each design?
100% unique.
Black and red suits, or it doesn't matter?
I'm going to say it doesn't really matter.
Cool. Classic pips or more unusual than better?
I like the more unusual ones a lot better.
Unusual. Okay. So vector graphics or realistic images?
100% vector every single time.
Okay. And I would like to add why. For specifically for that question, I would like to add why.
Yeah. So I'm going to start by saying places like Canva, like websites like Canva, things like that, they keep, as a designer, they keep me in business. Because if you have vector art to begin with, first off, you're going to have good, clear images every single time. But also, if for whatever reason you want to do a fine art print, if you want to, do promotion and actually put like a vinyl wrap on the side of a car, I'm going to need those vector graphics. And they shrink, they resize. Most printers, we prefer vinyl graphics because of size. It's a size issue. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't still get that realism and keep it vectored.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah,
I think next decks I will make for sure in vector vector style. Especially this Phoenix deck, it's in vector, and let's see, maybe really people like more vector, not realistic. But this Cybernude, it was like photorealistic style, and I think it's the most successful deck I made. But probably it's because of nudity. And by the way, what do you think about the nudity in playing cards? Is it good, bad? What is your opinion about this?
I have no issue with nudity on playing cards. It's always been an issue within the art world. Is nudity considered art? And it's for me, it's an expression of the human form. Someone took the time to actually draw that, which means that they sat there and they studied, okay, how does this fall, how does that fall, giving them a much deeper understanding of nature itself. And I have no issue with nudity, like, at all.
Okay, then I will send this decks to you. Okay, Maxtrat, thank you so much for this interesting conversation again. Today we were talking with Maxtrat. He's graphic designer and a teacher. Don't forget to write the comments, like this video, and subscribe. And don't forget to click bell button not to miss next video. Have a nice day, bye, bye, guys.